16.
Two sides, and I remember it seems to me like it was a Colonial Bakery screen door on each side with Colonial Bakery written on the screen, and one side was for white patrons and one side was for black patrons.
Yep. It made a difference. Yeah, that house used to be. That house had, see, 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms and a kitchen.
And a big back porch.
And a big back, wasn't no great old big back porch. Wasn't no porch like that up there, but it was because the kitchen set off like right here, and between right here and right there was the back porch. Yep. Yep. I never did know whether Ruby had a stroke or what she was back then, because I was just a little boy, but she had, when she write, I remember she had that little table in front of her, and she always would throw that hand just like that, and write those numbers. Yeah, I remember all that. Yeah, yeah, it's been a long time. Della used to live right here in the house where used to be right next door to this right here. Her and Anderson used to live in that house. And an old lady, when I was a little boy, used to stay in that house. The original lady we called Miss Woods. Right. Yep. Yeah, Sally was telling me about her. Yeah, Miss Woods. So she was old. She was old. I used to thought she was sick, but she was just old, and she had hair down below her butt. Yeah, she looked like she might have been, since I got old enough, I mean, they realized that I believe she was an Indian. I believe she was an Indian woman. She had a long, pretty, silver hair. Hair was just beautiful. Yeah. Wow. Yes, sir. And everybody in the neighborhood had a day that they used to go see by. They don't do that no more. Brittany Dog ambulance service, you know, where they go pick up people sick or whatever. And there was some young boys who were working there. And they had to go to lunch like 12 o'clock. And it'd be crowded, you know, over there at 12 o'clock. And they would get in that ambulance. They were young boys, they're teenage. They would turn on the siren and make everybody go to the side, and they get in front and go get their barbecue. And they get there and they just be laughing, They done had the siren wide open, they come in there, and you know how people pull to the side, you know, and they would make them get to the side, and they would go just come down there and get some barbecue.
Strangest thing to me, he had the place segregated, you know, whites on one side and blacks on the other one, and I thought that was kind of odd, you know, being that he was a black man that owned the business. I ain't never seen him he owned no car, now that I know. Always got around though. I drive, and before that, he could get different people to drive for him. He would walk down from Poplar Springs every Saturday, and it was a good 3 or 4 miles down to the pawn shop, and then he'd walk back home. And he was always in good health until the very end. I don't remember him ever being sick a day.
He used to go around, if you see him going up the corner every morning. I think he used to walk to order his meat, and then somebody would pick him up and they'd bring him back with the meat.
Said I was big enough to know what barbecue was, Mr. Chicken had to be. When he had that little small place there, Friday and Saturday thing, you couldn't get up that road.
They got to have the right kind of wood, hickory and the oak wood, I think hickory oak.
Yeah, he had a little place outside he barbecued. Right. Put the wood, he used hickory wood, and that's all he used. He used charcoal, he didn't use a charcoal tar. Just use that wood.
What kind of wood did he use?
Oak.
Oak?
I don't remember seeing him use charcoal. But see that when you use oak wood makes a charcoal. See, he doesn't cook it until that wood burns all the way down, and it's like a coal. And my father used to make charcoal.
He said oak wood, the smoke give it a better taste. I believe that it was oak. And he would have a great big old log about like that, and about this big around, and he put it, see it'll burn in, he would take the coals and shove it back into where the meat was.
A rag mop, and that's the way he would put it over his, like a towel. When he'd be cooking, he'd put that would be water salt, though, and put it in a basin by the pit. And every now and then he'd sprinkle that water on there to flame it from being so high. And the meat had a little season in it, and then he'd bring it in.
Well, Chick would sit there in that barbecue pit, you know, all day. That's how I learned the word Boston butt. That's why I learned that from him.
The shoulder portion of the hog is divided into 2 sections, called Boston butt and the picnic. The butt comes from the upper part of the front shoulder. In pre-revolutionary New England and into the Revolutionary War, some pork cuts were packaged into these wooden barrels, also known as butts, for storage and shipment. The way the hog shoulder was cut in the Boston area became known as Boston butt, and that name stuck. Today, Boston butts call that almost everywhere, except Boston.
Mr. Chicken, all right? You all that fire there, but the meat don't burn. And he said, no, what? He said, you actually cook with the smoke. You use some of the heat, but most of it is smoke that is cooked with, he said. Dab it on that meat like that, and you see a big blaze of fire go up. Like I said, he knew when to break them coals under that meat and when to take it away from there, because the meat was never burned.
He would tell me to stay out there and watch
the meat.
I had to turn it over. I didn't like that. Oh, I dropped a few pieces over in the coal.
You know, had to cut the meat up in 3 pieces. The butts come, you know, kind of big, and they sew them in the 3 pieces. That way they cook faster and easier before they put them on, you know, the grill. Because you had to cut it up hot and fast.
It's the real chicken coma. It was real nice. Did his own cooking, his own meat. Sometimes he'd get somebody to cook it for him if he had to go tend to business.
You know how I remember him sitting out there up under that shed cooking that meat?
Cooking meat.
Most of the time we'll sell out most of it. He'd be most of the fresh meat every day. Anytime I sold 13 Ks, I was doing good, you know what I mean?
And he had a great big open pit, and it was not closed in any way. He had just tons of butts on there.
Pretty much, well, ever since I've been around the business, we've always had pretty good cooks. Because my mom liked her meat to be cooked a specific way. And she cut every piece that comes through the building so she knows exactly how it's cooked.
He didn't put any sauce on it while he was cooking it.
And the smell, the aroma from the pit, you can smell it for, I guess, a radius maybe half of a mile. You know, had that fragrance like hickory smoke.
And we were fascinated with the aroma, because in the whole community, wherever you were working, you could smell that aroma of chicken coma barbecue.
Miles and miles, you could smell chicken coma meats a long, long ways.
Anyway, chicken coma said if you cut it with a slicing machine, so that's the reason people up north didn't sell no barbecue. It's not fitting deep when you slice it with a slicing machine. You got to cut it with a knife. Boning knife. Sometimes you use one of them old skinny knives. You know, they're about the same length. Only the skinny knife is shaped a little different way you skin it to hide off them with. But they usually use a boning knife. You go over at countries and they'll slice it off one of them confounded slicing machines. You know, you feel insulted.
And it'd just be paper thin slices and just absolutely to die for.
Yeah, it's a different way. She showed me how to cut it. Cut it kind of thin, not that thick. I cut it up now.
You know, you can be taught how to cut, but you're going to come into your own style of cutting. But when you get to that level where you can cut as fast as you want to cut, or somebody wants something, you can cut the meat exactly the way they want it, then that's when you learn how to cut. Then you're officially a cutter.
There's nothing like chicken combers. The outside meat's the way to go too. The hard, burned outside, you got to get it outside meat.
Yeah, they didn't have anything except you got meat and bread, that's all. It was worth going after.
And they were paper plates. Paper they would absorb the sauce she put in there. When you get through eating, the paper would be real yellow.
No, brothers do nothing like that. Nothing but go there and Anna would slice that meat very thin and put it in that plate and put that sauce on there. 3 or 4 pieces of bread. That was it.
I worked down there.
Yes,
Okay. I put those plates on my own. You know, remember how we didn't have trays.
No.
And so we stacked the plates on your arm. And they let me do it. One summer I made $11. Yeah, we had barbecue ribs and the Boston sliced pork.
And you would go in your respective side and go up to the line and order a 50-cent plate, a $1 plate, a $3 plate. On the 50-cent plate, you got enough meat and sauce and bread to have 3 sandwiches. But they would take these butts inside and slice them fresh. Everything was fresh and done right then. And all you ever got was meat and bread. That was it. There was no side orders or anything. Maybe an RC Cola or...
While chicken was still alive, there were no scales. He just eyeballed it.
And I bought barbecue in a lot of places over there sell barbecue, but none of their sauce tastes like this that Chicken Coma had. It was real good. I said it got to be good to keep the people coming.
He was a very pleasant man. I remember just going there, he'd always have a smile on his face. He'd sit up there on that stool and you tell him what you wanted, and that old mop that he used, dog, that thing must have been 40 years old. I think what it is, that sauce ate it up after a while. He used it till it wasn't nothing left of it. We don't care, it was good. We all enjoyed it.
Get the big blocks of ice from Blake's Ice House, put in the drink box. Cause a lot of times he'll sell out and he didn't have nothing but the skins left. And they would buy it and they'd say, give me that.
They claimed it was a China berry stick and an old undershirt. It didn't make no difference what he had on there. That barbecue was good.
I could take a order, but they didn't let me really touch the meat or anything. It was just something to droop down like that. With the sauce on it, I got to put the sauce on it. There was a towel, what I remember, it was a towel tied around. That's what they used to put the sauce. I can remember that it was a white towel with a green stripe on it. I just remember that. But that mop was good, had been sitting there for years, you have to keep it closed up in the refrigerator to keep it from, anything from happening to it.
And he had a sauce. My father said many people offered him a lot of money to ask Chick to give them that recipe for that sauce he had. But he made that sauce, he wouldn't tell nobody what the recipe was.
Most anybody can get out there and put your meat out there and cook it, but it was the sauce. Everybody would love the sauce. And I wouldn't have noticed much about it if I hadn't been in there with my grandmama when she was making it. I did in a wooden restaurant, and she would make the sauce and have it all lined up on the table. I guess she make it about a week, and she would send us in the house again. And she had a brother to die, and how people be sitting around talking, say, I hear Noah, when he get hungry, say, I hear him under that table, scratching. And she sent me to get that sauce that night. And we thought we heard Uncle No scratching under the table. We had that gallon of sauce in our home, and we were running through that big old house, and we were sliding it, but we didn't drop that sauce. Our mother would have killed us. Yeah, my grandmama used to make that sauce all the time. Yeah, Lou Bell used to make the sauce all the time. Cause Chick wasn't even in the house when she was making the sauce. She was making the sauce, and I was in there. I've had a lot of people just tell me. I said, I'm not going to tell you that's my granddad that raised me. And he died and he didn't give it to nobody, and I'm not going to give it to anybody. We just going to take it on with y'all. Make it the best you can.
And he wouldn't let nobody see him make that barbecue sauce, but I did. So I learned to make the barbecue sauce like he made.
Because everyone that worked for knew how to make the sauce because she wasn't trying to hide it. You know, as I said, if you ain't it the way it used to be made, a lot of people, because I've seen a lot of people turn red just from eating.
Yeah, people come in there and ask you what y'all put in the sauce, or y'all want to say the sauce name and stuff like that, but you know, they never could give out that information, so some things you have to keep to yourself. Can't give you everything, then whatever happens. So.
Wish I had some of that sauce. That sauce was straight, man.
So I think that's the main reason they like chicken corn barbecue. On the count of that sauce, where you mix it and put how you do it. You got to be, like I said, they wrote down on no recipe thing. You have to go by your instinct or whatever they call it.
His sauce was a mustard-based sauce, and it was hot. And a lot of people have said the closer you got to dipping in the bottom of the sauce, it was made in a great big pot. And they used to have a limb, and I've heard it was a China berry limb. Now I'm not so sure about that, but they had a limb with a rag tied around it. And if you wanted real hot sauce, they would go down to the bottom where all the peppers settled, and they would douse it down in there and then douse it on your chopped meat. And then you'd have a real hot plate of sauce. And if you didn't want it so hot, they'd dip on the top.
I always got me a large Coke so I could chase it down because it was hot, but that's what made it so good, and I think that's why I kept coming back, was because of the hot sauce, and it seemed to be a recipe that nobody could ever duplicate.
They had that drink machine in there, and you never could, see, they never had any change where if you had $1, you just didn't get a drink. You had to bring, if you didn't have the right change, you just had to eat without the drink.
It's got the little mustard peps in it, but it doesn't have the red peppers, the cayenne red pepper in it. That's beat up and done powder pulverized. We got to teach Keith how to make chicken comas barbecue sauce.
That's just the futuristic sauce. I know how to make the old sauce too. I got something coming for him.
Because a lot of people don't know that sauce really could knock a common cold out of you, you know what I mean? I mean, people use drinking this sauce for medical reasons, you know what I'm saying? Like you never wanted to stop eating it. You always want to keep that taste in your mouth. Like I could just eat this all day long.
Barbecue so famous and everybody would eat it was that sauce that he put on it.
Pulling limbs and everything.
And he wouldn't give you a recipe for that for his life.
My earliest memory is going down there and getting the 50-cent plates and all that. Of course, it seemed like your mouth would burn for 30 minutes after you eat it, but it was good. It was good. Chicken he didn't lighten it up none. It was still pretty hot as far as sauce goes.
But you know it, it's like I know it, it ain't nothing like the original.
Oh, and it really has a kick.
It's great.